Hi guys, so Matt Hancock, the health secretary, was on Sky News speaking to Sophie Ridge about vaccines, about the pandemic in general, but also what was on everyone's minds, the restrictions surrounding Christmas. So let's hear what he had to say.
Difficult few days for all of us, I'm sure. Before we get on to the rest of the interview, I just want to play you a clip of the Prime Minister. This is from Wednesday.
We don't want to, as I say, to ban Christmas, to cancel it, and I think that would be frankly inhuman and against the instincts of many people in this country.
Okay, so Matt Hancock has to respond to this, but before we get to hear his response, Boris Johnson was attacking Keir Starmer on the same day during PMQs, suggesting that he wanted to impose a lockdown, he wanted to cancel Christmas. Now, Boris Johnson, a few days later, said we have to impose these restrictions and basically cancel Christmas for families. Now, I find it very difficult to believe that Boris Johnson didn't know it would be necessary to make these cancellations on Wednesday. He has access to a huge amount of information. The scientists he's meeting with them constantly. I hope he's meeting with them every day, and they're giving him new advice, and they're giving him advice on how to act, how to steer the country in the right direction, how to deal with this pandemic. But I find it very difficult, considering a new strain, considering the increased infections, how it's possible that Boris Johnson didn't know it would be necessary to increase the restrictions on Wednesday when he actually carried it out a few days later.
Why has the Prime Minister now imposed a policy that just 4 days ago he said would be inhuman?
Well, we don't want to do any of this, but it's necessary. I mean, this has been an awful end to what has been an incredibly difficult year. And on Friday, when we were presented with that new scientific evidence about the new variant, it was our duty to act. And you know, from being presented on Friday afternoon with just the strength of how easy this new variant finds it to transmit from one human to another, we acted very quickly and decisively, and with the announcements that the Prime Minister set out yesterday. And, you know, I just think everybody watching will feel this sense that we both feel of disappointment, and that it's just so difficult ahead of Christmas, which everybody was really looking forward to after all of the sacrifices that have been made. But unfortunately, this virus, the new strain, was out of control. We've got to get it under control. And the way that we can do that, the only way you can do that, is by restricting social contact. And essentially, especially in Tier 4 areas, everybody needs to behave as if they might well have the virus. And that is the way that we can get it under control. And
once again, we have this response. It's the people need to go the extra mile. It's the public's responsibility, not our responsibility, for basically telling people up to now things are going to get better. We know that things are not getting better. We know things are going to get worse. The NHS is under a huge amount of strain at the moment. This is what was the turning point, I think, not this new strain. The strain, yes, but also this strain isn't something that was discovered just on Wednesday or on Friday, as Matt Hancock has said.
keep people safe.
I think people understand the reasons behind the restrictions. I guess the question perhaps some have is the way that it's been done, so close to Christmas. And you're saying, of course, that you only found out the full information about the new strain on Friday. But at the same time, so the Chief Medical Officer said yesterday, there's no current evidence to suggest the new strain causes a higher mortality rate or that it affects vaccines and treatment. So all that's changed is that it transmits more easily.
Yes.
And I understand that you didn't know about the new strain, but back in November, on the 24th of November, when you announced the Christmas relaxation, It was entirely predictable that the virus might be spreading more quickly than you thought at the time. So why did you make that promise all the way back then and get everyone's hopes up?
No, in November, thankfully, the numbers of cases was coming down.
Yeah, but I understand they were coming down in November, but you could have predicted that they might be going back up again in 4 weeks' time. It's an extremely unpredictable virus.
Well, as you say, it's very unpredictable.
It's very unpredictable. Then why did you predict it was going to go down? Why did you say, okay, we're going to set the end of the lockdown, on the 2nd of December. We're going to end the lockdown on the 2nd of December, even though you had no idea whether the virus would be going down or not, the new infections would be going down or not. You decided we're going to set this arbitrary date of the 2nd of December to end the lockdown, and then we'll move into the tiered system. Now, that wasn't scientifically based. Once again, it's Boris Johnson and his government playing catch-up. Let's try this and see if it works. Throw this against the wall and see if it works. Oh, it doesn't work. Okay, try something else. But once again, as I said before, I could not understand the reasoning behind setting an arbitrary date for ending the lockdown. It makes no sense to me. If you have it's like, as I said in another analogy, the idea you have a building on fire and you say, we're going to stop pumping water into the building at 9 o'clock. You say, why 9 o'clock? Because it's 9 o'clock. Okay, we've decided 9 o'clock is the time we're going to end. Yeah, but what if the fire isn't put out? Doesn't matter. We're going to stop pumping water in at 9 o'clock. Doesn't make any sense to me.
And
so why did you make that promise?
Well, it's very unpredictable because I understand how important Christmas is to people who've been looking forward to it all year, and you know, thankfully in many parts of the country,
this has to be the worst response I've heard from Matt Hancock yet, because we understand how important Christmas is to people. This is Matt Hancock. He's the health secretary. He's not Uncle Bob who said, look, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to turn up for Christmas. I knew it was important for you, so I made a promise that everything will be okay. I'll be there, in time. Unfortunately, I found some snow and I can't arrive on time, or I can't arrive at all. This is the health secretary telling the public that he made promises he knew he couldn't keep in order to keep the public happy. You're dealing with a pandemic. And it's not something new. You've been dealing with it since April. How is it possible? Matt Hancock is saying, I really have to listen to this again, because this is absolute insanity.
I understand they were coming down in November, but you could have predicted that they might be going back up again in 4 weeks' time. It's an extremely unpredictable virus.
Well, as you say, it's very unpredictable. And
so why did you make that promise?
Well, it's very unpredictable because I understand how important Christmas is to people who've been looking forward to it all year.
To hell with people's wishes at Christmas. You're dealing with a deadly pandemic. I'm sorry, Matt Hancock should resign. He has no business being the health secretary. He's there on live TV. He said, I made promises to people knowing that I couldn't fulfill them, hoping that they would be happy because they would have their Christmas. This is unbelievable.
And thankfully in many parts of the country, it is going to be possible to have a restricted, very careful Christmas break, essentially on Christmas Day itself. But the whole challenge of dealing with this pandemic has been that, being unprecedented, we've had to learn about the virus all the way through.
Okay, I understand that, but you have to err on the side of caution. You don't say to people, yeah, you're going to be able to have your Christmas. And it's not just the fact that he's saying, yes, you'll be able to have your Christmas and you'll be able to enjoy your Christmas, and Boris Johnson saying the same thing. Boris Johnson was attacking Keir Starmer for suggesting that there should be restrictions at Christmas. attacking him. Instead of working together and saying, look, we're going to probably have to impose new restrictions for Christmas. Let's work together to inform the public, explain to the public how important it is, how it's necessary for them to make this extra sacrifice. No. You knew there was a risk, but you went ahead and told people, enjoy your Christmas anyway.
And then we've got this new variant, which the scientists are still learning about. I mean, even today, they're doing more research on it to understand more. And what matters is that, as a society, we need to stop this new variant from spreading. And we can only do that, not just with action by government. And sometimes, these debates sound like it's, what is the government going to do? Of course, we've got an important role, and that's why we acted so fast yesterday. But it's what is everybody going to do? Because it's only if we all take personal responsibility to act in a way that doesn't spread the virus. That's the only way that we can get this new strain under control.
Isn't it interesting that the government will criticise the public, or the public are not following the rules? The public are not doing enough. The public need to do more. The public need to do their bit. And then Matt Hancock also adds in, the government is doing their bit as well. What about Dominic Cummings? I'm sorry to drag this horrible story back into the news again, but into the discussion. Dominic Cummings destroyed a huge amount of public trust that was necessary to deal with this pandemic. Why was he not fired? Why was he not reprimanded? Why were there Tory MPs and members of government defending Dominic Cummings? You could even see how public trust was being damaged by what happened with Dominic Cummings. He should have been jettisoned from number 10 as soon as he broke the rules. But people saw, there's one rule for them and there's one rule for us. And the government continued to criticise the public, saying the public need to do this, they need to do more, they need to respect the rules. And Matt Hancock and Boris Johnson will never ever say, we made a mistake. We should have done more.
I just want to come back to the point about why you announced the Christmas relaxation a month before it was going to happen. Because you say that it was because you care about Christmas, you know how important it is, but surely it's the hope that's worse, isn't it?
The reason they did it was because they're afraid of a public backlash. They're also afraid of a backlash in Parliament. Boris Johnson pretends to be strong, but in reality he's very weak. He's always looking over his shoulder. And the Conservative Party are not interested in public health. They're interested in maintaining businesses open. So they're playing this ridiculous balancing game. Okay, let's try and get people back into work. Let's try and get the economy working again. As soon as the first wave was over, if you could even say the wave was over, as soon as they were ending the lockdowns, they were encouraging people, get back into the work, get back into the office. It's your civil duty to buy sandwiches at your local bar. Encouraging people to go out to eat out to help out, instead of the government actually giving money to businesses to help them. No, encourage people to go out and buy food in restaurants, which actually helped the spread of the pandemic. Now, it'd be very interesting to see information or advice from Sage about Eat Out to help out. I'm pretty much convinced that they were against that. This was economically driven. It was not driven by the science.
People have been preparing. They bought the turkeys. They got through the last few weeks thinking, at least I'm going to be able to see my nan on Christmas Day. And now at the last minute, that's been ripped away. I understand the new variant is here, but it was entirely predictable that the situation would have changed in 4 weeks' time. So why did you make the promise when you must have known there was a chance you might not be able to deliver it?
Well, because we've got to balance these different things that people, all of us want,
so
right?
Why make the promise, though?
Well, we made a commitment, not knowing, of course we didn't know, in the same way that you didn't know, Sophie, that there was going...
What's this got to do with Sophie? Why didn't you say, look, do it the other way? Say to people, look, this pandemic, we're a month or whatever out from Christmas. You need to prepare for not having a Christmas with your family. Prepare now for that. Then at the last minute, if there was a massive change and the number of new cases disappeared, then you could change that and people would be happy. It would be better to give people happy news at the last minute than bad news at the last minute. You knew what was happening. And as you said yourself, it was unpredictable. So you would have to err on the side of caution.
To be a new variant that spreads so much faster, which we found out about. We found out about the existence of it last weekend, and then we found out about this property it has, the fact it spreads so much easier. We found out about that on Friday. So I understand how people are feeling, and I feel it. I had to call my mum last night and say, we're not going to see each other over Christmas, and because of this new strain, it is a really very, very serious situation that we all find ourselves.
See, what he's trying to do now is offload the blame onto the strain. It's the strain's fault. It's not our fault. We made bad predictions, but it's the strain's fault. Now, I know this will resonate with some people. They will say, look, yeah, it's not the government's fault. There's this new strain. But the government knew that it was unpredictable. They know that it's unpredictable. So why would you tell people? I'm trying to think of an analogy here. There's a bombing campaign outside my door. Bombs are falling. What would be the right advice to people? Stay indoors. Don't go running down to the park. Now, Matt Hancock and Boris Johnson were basically telling, there's bombing going on outside. It'll probably be over soon. So you can go out and you can plan your holiday. You can plan to go to the shops later in the day because it'll probably be over. You don't know that. It's unpredictable. It doesn't make any sense.
Ourselves in, and we've got to come through it together. But as Dr. Nagpal was saying, the good news is that there's light at the end of the tunnel. The good news is that the vaccine rollout is going.
Now he's doing it once again. Making predictions, making promises that he knows he can't keep. We don't know. Yes, there seems to be a light at the end of the tunnel, but stop making promises, Matt. You need to be more downbeat, I think. Prepare people for the worst, not hoping for the best. I understand that people are down, they want to have some positive news, but you need to level with them, because now there's a chance that going forward there would be problems with the rollout of the vaccine. There are also issues in the news. I've read issues surrounding NHS staff not being able to get these vaccines. Doctors and nurses who are working on the front line haven't been included in the rollout. They need that vaccine. Otherwise, they're going to get infected, and there's a risk that there will be no staff to operate in the hospitals. But Matt is always talking about, look, we have this new silver bullet. This is going to resolve all the problems. It was test and trace. Then it was an app. Then it was a new tiered system. All of these things are going to fix the problem. We don't have to worry. And now it's the vaccine. I hope he's right. But he should stop making predictions that he can't back up with evidence, and he shouldn't be making promises, along with Prime Minister Boris Johnson. They shouldn't be making promises that they can't keep. Because this isn't the first time that they've broken a promise or predicted something that did not come true. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?